everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Daily Cheat Sheet. I am here with Golan Ramraz. Mend is on vacation, and we wish him a joyous and lovely time in a vacation that we cannot mention where it is because his security and life are on the line.
That's right. We're far too popular. Let's keep it as an undisclosed location.
He's in a bunker somewhere far away. I'm happy to be here with you. And for people that missed yesterday's episode, we're going to rebroadcast it also on Saturday in a different format. But we're also going to put it up on You Can't Handle the Truth podcast, and which is Golan's other podcast, as well as my. I'm not posting it on the Ben Stein podcast, but that's my other podcast, The World According to Ben Stein. And I gauge a lot, Golan, by what I read on Truth. It's funny, people love to knock Truth Social, but it was how I was able to predict Trump was going to be the nominee. I saw that nobody was leaving him on Truth Social. I saw his popularity gaining with every increasing post and arrest and other arrest and other arrest. So I really do thank the Truth listeners for being extremely critical and honest. Yes, there are some crazy people, but go to X. That is the that is the major league of crazy. At best, Truth Social might be a farm system, but for the most part, you have some really amazing people there. So I really want to thank everybody there for their support, Golan, for this show. It's been incredible. I know you're on there too, and I think you see the same thing.
I do. And, I have to say, I really enjoy Truth because, I don't like necessarily an echo chamber. I don't want everyone to be having the same conversation all the time. That's not useful. I'm not learning anything. I think none of us, I guess some of us love to sit and just be told what we already think is correct. But most real thinkers don't want that. And I consider you to be one of those people. I consider myself to be one of those people. Men certainly is. So one of the things that I enjoy there is that a lot of people are coming from the right, but with different perspectives. It's something we've spoken about before, that you find a lot of Borg, hive mind mentality on the left, whereas on the right, there is this multiplicity of thought. And that multiplicity of thought actually really gets you thinking. Some of it, sure, is wackadoo, in my opinion, and I usually dismiss. But the fun thing about Truth is I even have the conversations with those people until I realize, whoa, they are off the
right. There's a point. Yeah. Right. And you could have disagreements on Truth. There are people that listen to the show that constantly are DMing me or whatever you would call it. Yeah, they're DMing me or, retruthing the show, enjoying the episodes. And I'm forever grateful for that. But the thing I'm forever grateful for, Golan, is right now at this moment, people are confused. We're living in confusing times and nobody's really acknowledging the confusion that we're living in. They're saying, just gloss over it, it'll correct itself or whatever it is. And that's not an answer to people. So when people see this New York mayoral election that's going on, when you have an outright Islamic radical running for mayor and could possibly win the primary, which would probably mean he's the next mayor of New York City, that's an issue. That means radical Islam is in New York City, has taken over New York City like it's taken over London. I know it's very far away from Iran, but Golan, it's in New York City.
That is frankly scarier to me than what's going on in Iran, because Iran, even if it does eventually somehow make its way over to the United States, it's going to be a while, and it's not going to be a barrage of rockets like what happens in all the territories nearby. But in New York, which is one of the big cities, and whether we like it or not, whether we agree with the politics or not, the coasts do tend to be trendsetters that eventually reverberate elsewhere. And so if we see someone like, let's just say his name, Zohran Mamdani, elected as the mayor or even put up as the Democratic candidate for mayor in New York, I think we are already in very dangerous territory. This is an insurgent socialist, darling of the Gen Z and the progressives, are the same brainless people who back AOC and Bernie. He's offering stuff. I mean, I was reading his platform today. Somebody posted, thank God for this guy. He's going to give us free buses. He's going to do rent freezes. He's going to do city-owned grocery stores where everything's cheaper. He's going to, of course, also make sure he's repeated, globalize the Intifada, whatever that means. Nobody has any idea what that means. But this is someone who hasn't explained how he's going to pay for all of that stuff, like most socialist, utopian asshole dreamers. Forgive my language.
That's okay. That word, I go with any word you're allowed to say on television right now.
There you go.
So
nice.
You could say the S word. You could say that.
Business leaders are already doing exit strategies for if this guy manages to get elected, they are leaving New York. This is not just a disaster because he openly explains that the whole reason he got into politics was to fight Palestinian causes, or to fight for Palestinian causes. He is literally a founder of SJP chapters. SJP, by the way, is a Muslim Brotherhood aligned terrorist organization, just waiting for the official label. But there's plenty of evidence that shows that they are aligned and potentially funded by and potentially getting information from. Just to give you an insight, this is the same group of people that hello, men. This is the same group of people who knew on October 8th there were still terrorists roaming around Israel to start marching before the rest of the world even knew what was going on. That information came from inside the house. So for him to have founded something like that, not to mention everything that comes out of his mouth being nightmare fuel, this guy becoming the mayor of one of our largest cities, if not the largest, I'm not sure, is a nightmare for not just that city, but for what could happen in the rest of the United States.
That's a great point, and we are joined from his bunker where we did not disclose his location. The dude who, no matter where he is, he's looking good. But we're talking about this mayoral race and the consequences that it has, men, and it's extremely frightening. And I just want to say to people, Golan just brought up a point. New York, I know, is far away from California, but it's very close to other major cities, and things have a way of spreading. I know it's not 6,000 miles away, but it's not that far away from places like Detroit. It's not that far from places like Cleveland, men. And that we have allowed this to happen in New York City should frighten everybody, and nobody's talking about it because of the Islamic part of it. Nobody's willing to say out loud, we have a freaking crazy mullah about to become mayor of New York City, God forbid.
It's crazy. I mean, this guy has never run anything in his life. He's a young punk whose parents are Columbia professors. He had a privileged life, and he's an Islamofascist. If New York wants to go down that road, buy real estate in Florida because everybody is going to flee. New York needs to hit rock bottom. Let New York sink. It used to be the greatest city in the world. It's the city I grew up in. I love that place. But if they are that stupid that they would elect an Islamofascist moron run the city and turn it into a socialist nightmare, go for it. Wind up like Oakland, California. You know, I saw a great meme on social media. It had a picture of Hiroshima and it had a picture of Detroit. And it showed Hiroshima back right after we bombed it, and it was obliterated. It was done. And today, it's a flourishing city. And Detroit, which is just a shithole. It's just a Democrat-run shithole. And it said that you could come back faster from a nuclear bomb than you can from a Democratic-run city. And that is as true as it comes.
I want to take Men's point, though, Golan, because he enjoys movies, but he doesn't work in the movie business like you do, and he's not a freak like I am, where I look up everything about the movie. But he brought up the scenario of Billy Joel's Miami 2015. Really, that's what that whole song is about. But it's also amazing, Golan, that every dystopian movie, right, RoboCop, is about Michigan, right? It gets to such a low, the police have to take over. You have anything John Carpenter got his hands on, Escape from New York, Escape from LA. You had Rod Serling, a devout socialist, although I respect his work far more than any of them. But Golan, isn't it amazing that every dystopian nightmare has been written by a lefty and it came from a lefty?
That's a great observation. That's very funny, actually. I've never thought about that. It's true, by the way. This is something that they, of course, write these things because they're trying to warn against authoritarianism and what they see as coming from the right. You're absolutely right. Soylent Green, that's New York. Day After Tomorrow, supposed to be about climate disaster. That's New York. I Am Legend, supposed to be about a virus outbreak. That's New York City. A lot of New York. And now we have a socialist jihadi mayor. So just add that to the list. So what do we got? Maximum security prison, Escape from New York. We got food shortages. We got viruses. We got zombie apocalypse. We got climate freezes. And now the biggest disaster, Mamdani. So yeah, that's an interesting point. I had never noticed that before. I will now watch post-apocalyptic movies through a totally new lens.
And try to find one minus John Milius, right, that's written by a conservative or a person on the right, and he considers himself a Zen anarchist. And for people not familiar, I know Men's not familiar probably with John Milius, but he wrote the Dirty Harry movies, he wrote Apocalypse Now, and he wrote what got him canceled, which was Red Dawn, a
I
brilliant
love
movie.
all those movies. I love all of those movies.
Right. Those were all written by a righty, right? Because at the end of the day, there's a hero involved. In the others, it's sort of so dystopian. But I want to finalize this thing with you, Mend, about we both come from New York. And what amazes me is it's the Marjorie Taylor Greene line of, well, it's 7,000 miles away. I don't know what's she's without a globe. Does she have a map, you think, of the United States? Does she realize that New York City is not that far away from Georgia?
The last episode I said I don't know much about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'd like to update that. She's a moron. I've done a little digging since, and yeah, she's American first, but she's a moron. She's as idiotic as Ilhan Omar. I still believe that Ilhan Omar is more dangerous than her, but she's as idiotic. There was an old saying which was created by Michael Hempf, I think it's coined this term. Hard times create strong men create good times, and then good times create weak men, and then weak men again create hard times. We need to update that. It's soft, liberal, cushy, well-to-do white women that are creating the hardest times. They are inviting in Islamofascists all in the name of social justice, and they are willing to sacrifice their own sons and daughters to this cause. They're willing to march their daughters up to the altar of wokeism and sacrifice them. Let them be raped by Pakistani rape gangs in the UK. Let them, just be assaulted by violent criminals in New York. A woman was set on fire and burned to death on the New York subways, and these people still don't understand that this woke ideology is detrimental to their way of life. They don't get it. So what is the answer? I mean, people are fleeing. I wish they wouldn't flee. I wish people would stay and fight, but people flee. I had a guy in my own community who was an ex-UFC fighter. He was the mayor of Huntington Beach, and he fled. He ran to Miami. People just flee. People just say, this is not my fight, not my circus, not my monkeys. They run away. And then what happens? Great cities fall. Civilizations fall. Every night we listen to this podcast called The Fall of Great Civilizations. It happens. It's happened over and over and over again. It happens to every single one of them. How does it happen? In our case, it's woke, white, well-to-do women. That is the problem.
Listen, I think you're 100% correct. I think that's a very good analysis on the situation. I want to move, though, also because this is something that, again, will not be reported majorly in the news. And those are the things we really tried to cover. So, Golan, you had this mass needle injection at a music festival. So I think it's important to get to, because I know this story will not be covered in many places because it'll invoke, again, Islamophobe. But in France, at a music festival, you had about 150 young women being poked with needles that were laced with either the date rape drug or something else. Who the hell knows? But nobody's going to talk about this story. Nobody wants to talk about the stories in Sweden of music festivals being shut down because of Muslims being there, upskirting women and doing really vile acts. And they had to cancel it. They just said, instead of dealing with the Muslim problem, they said, no more music. It's like Footloose in Sweden.
Well, by the way, so this is it's an interesting music festival. It's called Fête de la Musica, and it takes place not in one venue. It's not like one field. It takes place across a large swath of the country. So these particular attacks happened throughout the Paris region, and it was about 150 people, all girls, and all between the ages of 14 and 20. Okay, and they don't exactly know, even though they know some of the things were the date rape drug and things like that. They don't know what was in all the injections, but they know that all of them were injected with similar needles, and there's a consistency across the board. And they've arrested 12 people now. And of course, as usual, at least as of the last time I did my research on the story, they have not disclosed who they arrested, which is always an interesting sign.
It's the Judah rule. It's the Judah rule. If the name is not released,
the Judah rule.
If a name is not released within the first few hours of an attack, it's for the most part probably a Muslim, and secondly, it's a black person.
We don't know what they were injected with. This could have been some new Ebola virus. It could have been a date rape. It could have been a horny little Muslim, and it could have been a psychopathic CCP agent trying to release a new pandemic. We have no idea what was released, what was injected, and this is not a injection thing. This was a syringe attack. They attacked young girls with syringes, injecting them with an unknown substance, and the government has remanded 150 victims that are now under police detainment, medical and police detainment. What does that say? What are they afraid that these people were injected with, where they would detain the people that were injected and they're keeping them under lock and key for some reason? I hope it's out of an abundance of caution, that they just want to make sure that it's benign and it's just some date rape thing and these girls didn't get raped and da 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 and it's fine. But on the worst case scenario, this could be a new viral Ebola thing that's being spread on. Who knows? This is scary. This is very
And
scary.
by the way, they're calling this chemical weaponry. Okay, so it's important to note that while we can say, oh, maybe this is just, quote unquote, just. By the way, just is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because when you say, oh, maybe it's just a date rape drug, it's like, Jesus, the 150 14-year-old girls getting date rape drugged is not a minor thing either. But imagine if it's more. Imagine if it becomes, maybe this is the testing ground. This is one of the theories being posited by law enforcement, because it's not just happening at that festival. That just happens to be the concentrated one where people are talking about it. There was an uptick as of 2021 in the UK, in Ireland. There was an uptick. There were over 1,000 between September to December of 2021. There were over 1,000 needle spiking claims in UK nightclubs. Again, hysteria, and some of it is not being reported. Some of it is being reported and put under the rug. Some of it is just being dismissed. It's happening at football games, soccer, for those of you not in Europe, football games in Belgium. It's happening at teenage festivals, 24 girls at teenage festivals in Belgium. It happened in Germany. It happened in Spain. It happened in Switzerland.
And
This is not an isolated thing.
And this is what's getting out. The UK government covered up 20 years of Pakistani rape gangs raping underage UK girls for 20 years. So if this is what we're hearing about, this thing is most likely much wider, much more prevalent, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And if they want to screw up our way of life, there are so many ways for these people to do it.
So we mentioned New York City. How far is that from Georgia, roughly? Yeah, let's say it's about 500 miles. Okay, so France about 3,000 miles. Let's bring it back to the homeland, where over the weekend 11 Iranians that came here, I believe, during the Biden regime. One of them, who was a former member of the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard of Iran, was arrested, and all of them were arrested not because they were just here, because they were arrested because they had committed crimes.
And it's important to point out what the IRGC is. Iran has two armies. There's the regular army where people just go and da-da-da. And then the Ayatollah, the Khomeini, the chief cleric, the top Muslim leader in the country, has his own army. And these guys are psychopaths. And they do all the bullshit, all the drug running, all the crypto stealing, all the cryptocurrency stuff, all the getting the Iranian oil out of the country. The economic engine of the country is all run by the IRGC. Every single attack that you see coming out of Hezbollah, Hamas, that's all IRGC run. They run all.
Let's give them the name.
Stuff.
Okay, the name is important for people to understand. It's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC.
Thank you very much for correcting me.
And by the way, I love when they do this. It's like KFC. Back suddenly fried was a bad thing, so they no longer are Kentucky Fried Chicken. They're KFC. So the IRGC sounds a little more innocuous, but these are the guys who are leading and holding the theocratic Islamic revolutionary psychotic Ayatollah regime in Iran, not the wonderful Persian people, as we always come.
You're both absolutely correct. We're all talking about things that are in America right now. So Men brought up 700. I would imagine it's like there used to be, what's that old joke? If you ask a guy how many people he slept with, you divide it by 2. If you ask a woman how many people she slept with, you multiply it times 3. So I'm going to go with the multiplication table here of men, that number of 700 being at least 2,100. Okay, when you lose that many people that you can't count, and there's a good chance we have allowed 20 million people into this country in a 4-year period, it's a damn good chance that there's more than 700 of these nut jobs running around. So
can I add one thing to that,
too? Yeah, please.
Which is part of the problem is not just who's been let in, but who is colluding with them, because at least some of the people that have been let in, we've already found U.S. citizens arrested now for harboring these people, for threatening the ICE agents that are aiding the enemy. So it's not bad enough that we have these people that are coming in that are literally, by the way, this is not an exaggeration, part of the IRG, part of Hezbollah, actual Iranian snipers in the Ayatollah's regime. But beyond all of that, we have Americans who have been either brainwashed or already came in ready to go to be on their side.
We have
Man,
that Columbia University terrorist who some judge just ordered to be let out of jail. He's back leading the protests, and he chants in support of Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and all these other places. These people, and he's here on a green card. Anyone that's coming into our country that advocates for our enemies should be kicked the hell out right there and then. Your visa's canceled. You get out. And I don't care what some liberal, demented judge thinks about that due process. There is no due process if you're not an American citizen. You're here as a guest. It's a privilege. And if you don't conform to our way of life, if you're advocating for our enemies, you can get the hell out.
well said. And Golan, I think something people are forgetting because there's this constant knock, even from within the party, that he's not doing enough, right? That it's not America first, right? And I want to point out to a lot of things that he's done that have been overturned. One of the biggest things is obviously terrorists within our own country, people that have invaded campuses that don't only affect Jews, they affect everybody on those campuses. Another thing that's been turned around, like another thing that he's had turned on him, this isn't exactly turned on him, but people are not familiar with this. The reason why we have so many homeless people on the streets is because of the ACLU. The ACLU made it nearly impossible to kick homeless people off the streets because they have rights. So that's nothing Trump could do about it. So Trump cannot just say, get the fire hose out, Golan. We're going to clean up these streets immediately. He cannot do that. And we've seen what happens when he tries to help out a state or a city. So it's a no-win situation. So for the people, the economy is looking better. A lot of things are looking a lot better, and he's not getting the credit. And this isn't as a Trump sycophant. This is just reality. Things are getting better. Egg prices.
But of course and by the way, anyone who says that dealing with these terrorists or dealing with any of the illegals that came in that would seek to do harm to the United States is not America first, doesn't understand what America first is. This is not a foreign threat. This is a domestic invasion. These aren't radicals over there. And by the way, some of the radicals over there also can be a threat, but we don't even have to posit that. These people are already here. They're sleeping in your suburbs. They're working in the jobs next to you or their fake jobs. They're planning from within. These Iranian nationals were with terror ties, by the way, as just mentioned, were caught not in one place. This is important. We didn't say this. In 9 American cities. And these are just the ones that were caught. These are just the ones that actively broke the law. And by the way, in some of those cases, you're talking about severe laws that were broken that somehow, like almost accidentally, gave us these people grand larceny, drug trafficking, firearm possession. These are enemy operatives that are here now. That stopping that is America first.
Agreed. And secondly, men, to his point, is nobody like Kash Patel has done. And I love that I posted this and somebody like, it wasn't Kash Patel that did the arrest, but the FBI has taken off the street a lot of fentanyl that is coming across the border illegally. They're doing a hell of a job. It's not going to take 3 months to clean up the FBI. It's going to take about 20 years to clean up the FBI. And Kash Patel has done yeoman's work in the job he's done, right? In the job he has done since he's been appointed, man.
Well, I would say that this administration has done an amazing job, and it's still too little. So I applaud them for what they're doing. I just know that what the previous administration did in 4 years by letting millions of illegals into the country, flooding states, especially swing states, where even if these people are not allowed to legally vote, you still, and that's questionable because a lot of these places do allow it, especially California, which is not a swing state, but California forbade it from providing ID to vote. They don't allow you to show ID to vote. I mean, how insane is that? But they flooded these illegals into swing states, and then what happens is those places get more representation just based off of the census. So even if you take out the whole argument of illegals voting, which they are, just the fact that there are more bodies in those places means that they get more representation. They get more seats. California has a disproportionate amount because of the illegal citizens here, not illegal people here. So it needs to be done. This administration is doing an amazing job at it, and I will still say it's not enough. Guys, keep going. Go as strong as you can. Go as hard as you can. The one thing that they are doing, and you could see this is consistent across all of the different policies that they're trying to implement is they are doing what needs to be done regardless of what the pundits and the talking heads and the influencers say. They're actually doing what needs to be done. And I get it, 1,000 or 600 people a day is not going to get rid of the 20 some odd million people that have come in. Step it up. Miller's out there saying step it up. I agree with that. Step it up. Step it up. Get as many as you can. And if you round up some innocent, and when I say innocent, I'm talking about people that have come into the country illegally, but have been here for 20 years and started a business and they have a family. My heart breaks for them. I don't think that they would be the top priority of this dragnet, but they need to be rounded up as well. Reason being is because if they get caught in the dragnet, just like when you're out fishing, you cast a big net. If they get caught, they did something illegal. They came across illegally. You do it the right way. Go do it the right way. Go back to the border, apply. You're a good standing citizen, and if you could show that you have a great track record and a clean history, that would probably get you preferential treatment. But the fact that you didn't and you got caught, I'm sorry, as much as that sucks, that's just the law, and you got to apply the law equally. You can't make exceptions for people that broke the law but happen to be good people. You broke the law, you're going to get caught up in that. And if you don't want that to happen, don't let millions of people just to flood across the country, because a lot of bad people come in that way. If it was just the people that came across and had good jobs and started businesses and did great stuff, nobody would be looking for them. Nobody would be talking about it. This wouldn't even be an issue. The reason that this is an issue is because the previous administration allowed over 20 million people into this country illegally.
But and I'll say in Trump's defense, it's what you just said at the end there that I think's important is, yeah, okay, like we can always criticize and there's always more to do. There always is, by the way, always more to do. And me, of the three of us, I've probably been the most critical of a lot of Trump's policies, or at least questioned them, or at least challenged them. I'm not always pushing back, but when I think it's necessary, I mention it. Here, I think he's the only one that is really pushing to clean up Biden's mess. That's the thing to remember is Biden took this country down a spiraling rabbit hole of inflation and border collapse and international humiliation and ally betrayal and cultural rot. And I could probably keep listing things for a long time. We didn't just fall down. We got shoved into a basement with the lights off and someone locked the door. And so Trump walking onto that minefield where everybody is against him. Everybody's pushing back. Half the country's brainwashed. Radical activist judges, as Judah points out on a regular basis, are blocking him at every turn, and somehow he's still getting things done. I think that we got to give him credit. Yes, there's still more to do, but the fact that he's done as much as he has feels like it is already a gargantuan step in the right direction.
Exactly.
Agreed. I'll jump in. And I'm just going to say agreed. What I would say is that more could be done. He's doing a fantastic job. And I hate saying Biden administration. The guy was taking a dump in his pants on stage and didn't know how to get off the stage. I mean, let's not say this was Biden. Whoever was running the show did this. And it was not Biden. That guy was pooping his own pants and he didn't know where was home. He was getting lost in the bathroom. I mean, seriously, let's not call it Biden. It was an administration.
Okay, let's bring it back. Again, we are a country of 330 million people, at least, okay? Let's say 360 with illegal immigration, okay? This isn't Canada. This isn't Barcelona. This is a country of 330 million people with federal judges all across this country that are trying to inflict as much damage as they can to Trump's agenda. So we have to be cautious when we say move quicker, because there is so much against him in a country of 330 million people, and so many illegals are spread all across this great country. So this will take time. And it's also important to remember that we have to win. Forget about the House coming up. We do have to win the next presidential election. We do have to win a couple rounds of next presidential elections for any of this to change. Look at his stance on DEI. You see every company now has backed down on DEI policies, trans policies. Go everything we've wanted before this election, right? So we had promises made, promises kept on DEI. We've had promises made, promises kept so far on immigration. We've had promises made, promises kept so far, if they pass this big, beautiful bill, on middle-class tax cuts. So these are things that are coming down the pike. It's why he keeps on talking about, and I just have to defend him in this sense. Never in my lifetime have I seen somebody be willing to spend all their political capital on something they believe in. I can't think of a politician before Trump that has used his political capital for his base and for America. Could we all agree on that?
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I think that's true, and it's reminiscent of a conversation that Judah and I were having offline, where I was saying I wish this, that, and the other thing had happened, and Judah very kindly reminded me, when you are the president, regardless of the fact that you are holding the top spot and theoretically the most powerful man in the world, you still have to have the political capital to pull things off. And speaking of movies, since Judah likes to use movies as examples, if you ever watched the movie The American President, the Aaron Sorkin movie where Michael
Yeah, it's a
Douglas is
great
the
movie with
president,
Michael Douglas.
it's
Fantastic.
a great, yes, a spectacular movie, but it also shows you how much work goes into one bill being passed, how you have to glad hand and make deals and give people things you don't want to give and go back on things you promised in order to get that one guy who has a different perspective to say it. And it's one at a time that it's got the board. I need this many votes. And you really get a sense of it's not just a bill on Capitol Hill. It's like blood, sweat, and tears for every move. And so even if you're the president, you still have to have the political capital to pull this stuff off. And I think that he has been expending his political capital and then going back to the bank to go, can I borrow some more? I promise I'll give it back later.
Well said. And which, man, the conversation that we were having beforehand, because obviously this is a conversation that has to be had. And I brought up in the beginning of the show that what I love about Truth Social is, and people like to knock it, and what I love about it is you and I had the debate for over a year and a half about the DeSantis Trump thing. And a lot of my information was coming, I want to say, from Parler before then, but Parler got closed down. So it was pretty much from Truth Social. I was reading his support growing with every prosecution and persecution. It kept on getting louder on Truth. The defenders kept on coming out. People were speaking out. And I know Truth Social is a small thing, but it's a good sample size. It's better than pollsters, right? Pollsters weigh 400 people. I was weighing a lot more than 400 people. So what Golan's talking about is, we were talking about, obviously, the situation in the Middle East and with Israel. And it's a confusing thing for a lot of people. Even on Truth, they don't know what to say. People don't know what to do. Was this the right thing to do? 79% of the polls say American were for Iran not having nuclear weapons, men, but at the same time, 34% or 44% didn't want us to do anything about it. So you had these conflicting things. And I was saying to Golan, Trump used a lot of his political capital to even get what he did done, which is miraculous.
Yeah, I mean, as far as what happened in the Middle East, that's one thing to break down and try to figure out, was it the right thing? Did he do the right thing? I think, as I've said before, the results are in the pudding. Take the win when you can take it. He came in, they were fucking around, or they were messing around. They were dragging their feet. He gave them a 60-day timeline. They were playing the Iranian, 3-card Monte game, where we're gonna drag you around for as long as we can as we build a bomb. 61 days came around, then boom, they got attacked. Israel jumped in there, took care of business, and America then gave them an off-ramp, said give up your bombs. They did not, and then America took it out. I call that a huge win. There are those that are saying, oh, but we didn't go far enough. We should have, gotten rid of the regime. We bombed the leader, Ali Khamenei. I disagree. I think this is a huge win. We got in, we got out. What was it, 12 days? We got in, we got out within 12 days. Not a single American life is lost. Their nuclear program is dust, and there's a tattered regime. All of the top leadership is dead. All of them. All of the guys that were talking so boastfully about how strong they are and how the gates of hell will open. The gates of piss open. Nothing. Absolute zero. This is a huge win. So going from here, like the people that are saying for regime change, what would that mean? We don't want to get embroiled in Iran. That's not our problem. Our problem was the bomb. Our problem was that this genocidal regime was going to attain a nuclear weapon. That couldn't be. Do we care what happens in Iran? We do not. We absolutely do not give a crap what happens in Iran. We have hope and aspirations for those people. We say, hey, we hope that you guys could find peace and prosperity. That's your problem. We don't need to be your policeman. We don't need to be sending our boys and girls in there to help you get there. We already helped you get there. We took out all the top leadership. Israel bombed Evin prison, which is the prison that holds all of the top diplomatic, the dissenters to the regime, all of the political prisoners were held in that prison. Israel released them all. Now the job is for you guys to do what you need to do.
Okay, let
And
me let
that's
me let
go
me let
for it.
me I don't disagree with you. But the point that you're bringing up that nobody has said, nobody in Israel was calling for a regime change with Israeli troops on the ground, and nobody in America was calling for regime change with American troops on the ground. That was the trope that was being spread around. So we have to take that off the table. And I know what you meant, but it could come across as that's what you were saying. And I know that's not what you were saying. Nobody was calling for that. To his point, the hope was that the Iranian people would stand up and rebel. And I don't know if 12 days is long enough, short enough, but after being 46 years a slave, I don't know what that does to a human. I
But it
don't know what
hasn't
46
but
years.
it's not 12 days. 12 days is since the war started, since Israel bombed them. Now's when the clock starts. Now we're going to see what happens.
Yeah. The good thing is
We're
they shot.
talking a day. This is
The
one
good thing
day.
is the good thing is Golan. They shot down that clock. And please go ahead and please explain to people what that clock is.
The clock you're referring to is officially known as the Palestine Square Countdown Clock. This is Iran's Israel Doomsday Clock. So basically, what it is in 2017, Tehran has a thing called Palestine Square. It's where they do their annual terrorist rallies, and it's on Quds Day. Quds Day. Quds Day is basically a terrorist translation for Israeli Independence Day. Anyway, there is a big digital countdown that has been there, the number of days remaining until September 2040, reflecting Khomeini's 2015 vow that Israel won't exist in 25 years. Well, okay, but we're getting closer and closer. Luckily, that guy's still in power. Anyway, the clock basically is a symbol of Iran getting ready to take down the Jews. And one of the things that we did in the day before my birthday, June 23rd, 2025, there was a big airstrike on Tehran, as you may have heard. And the IDF decided to specifically target that particular clock as part of the strikes against everything else was Iranian military, Iranian IRGC intelligence facilities, and the clock. So that's what you're talking about there. To respond to what Mend was saying a moment ago, and what you were saying too, I don't think anybody is saying, oh no, I'm so sad. Well, let me rephrase. I don't think anyone is being critical who wants to see the Iranian terrorist regime fall, who's been critical of the strikes on the nuclear facilities. I think we're all very happy with the strikes on the nuclear facilities. And it's not a matter of we should have gone farther. Funny thing is, just a little while ago, you were arguing that they should have taken out Khomeini. That was a big argument you had on the
I
show.
was for
Now,
that. I was for that. And the fact
yeah,
that it didn't happen, I don't mind it. I don't think it's such a big deal. I don't think that was a
yeah,
big deal.
okay. Okay, good. But that's an interesting thing to be like really gung ho about it and not think it's a big deal at the
No,
same time,
what's
which is fine.
funnier is Golan is that I had changed my opinion
I remember.
from the morning, and men said to me, oh, look who changed their opinion at the end of the day. So I found that funny. But again, Golan, the reason why this is so important that we're talking about this is because even we're confused. And men, you missed the beginning of the show when I was saying is that when I read truth posts, people are really confused right now. We're
But
living
wait,
in
wait, wait, wait.
extremely.
Let,
Yeah,
let
go
me.
ahead.
I want to respond to the confusion. Okay, so forget what I was saying. We've already spoken enough about Iran. We've spoken enough about what's going on over there. But I do want to talk about how Americans are viewing what's happening over there. Because right now there's a CNN headline that talks about how the majority disapprove of what Trump just did. Right? They give us these percentages: 56% of the people disapprove, 44% of the people approve. So first of all, with margin of error, to say majority disapproves as your headline is already dishonest as hell. But let's just put that aside because, classic media distortion is basically where CNN lives. But let's put that aside and say, how many Republicans were into it? You guys know the number? We all read the CNN article. Yeah, because it was buried in paragraph 7. 82% of Republicans supported the strikes. CNN really hid that. Why? Because that doesn't fit the anti-Trump narrative. The idea is to beat up on Trump. So if you're going to do selective polling, that's essentially just pure manipulation. No wonder there's confusion. when you have 78% of the American populace that say, we don't want the Iranians to have a bomb. And then when they're asked, okay, so should we go ahead and take care of that bomb thing? They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, I don't want you to do anything about it. I want Tinkerbell to not die. Let's all clap and hopefully the bomb will go away. So that alone shows you the confusion, the idea that they want an outcome but are not willing to do the steps to get the outcome that they want. So yeah, confusion, absolutely. 58% of Americans right now say that the strike just happened made Iran more dangerous. So, okay, is that fear of the strike or is that fear of what the media is stoking as a result of it? All of it's confusing. And by the way, even for people like us who study everything and are learned in these things and are actually communicating with people within the government and all the rest, it's confusing for us too. I can only imagine how confusing it is for laymen.
Both of you, extremely great points. And I think I just want to say it's okay to say out loud, you're confused. Oftentimes,
I don't think people are confused. I think it's the media that is confused. I think it's the lefties that are confused. They're impeaching Trump over this thing. When Obama droned,
they're not. That got thrown out by 100 Democrats, voted against it. Like that's out. I mean,
it's
the crazy Al
garbage.
Green.
I mean, it shows you how insane these people are. There's nothing that Trump could do that they would ever go along with, even if he creates peace in the Middle East. Like, seriously, if that was a litmus test of what you can and cannot do, these idiots, it just shows that they're just full of it. So let's go back to this thing. Trump had an opportunity to take out the nuclear program. He moved on it, which is a very bold move. There was a lot of opposition to it within the right. Forget about the left. Of course, the left is against everything. But even in some of the right circles, the Tucker Carlson circles, he did it anyway. And then in record time, got the Iranians to beg for a ceasefire. The Israelis, I heard some Israelis generals talking. They're like, we're running out of targets in the Middle East. We actually don't have any more.
Let's move on from the Iran thing. Let's go on. Go on.
Well, there was something, Mend just said something interesting. He said he doesn't think the American people are confused. I want to drill down a little bit. Mend, I want your thoughts on this. What do you mean? Do you mean, in general, or do you mean about what's happening in the world? You don't think the media bias is confusing them? The media is confused, but they're not. What do you mean by that?
I think that most critical thinking Americans realize that CNN, MSNBC are just propaganda machines. They even view Fox News as a propaganda machine. We've canceled our cable subscription 3-4 years ago. Stopped watching all that garbage. We get our news from multiple different sources on a daily basis.
But I'm sorry, you're talking about you. You're men. Of course you do.
Yeah, maybe.
You also,
so maybe.
I was about to say that.
I'm on vacation.
I'm talking about American people.
Yeah,
American people.
I am on vacation. I bumped into a dude at the pool. Both of our kids are swimming, and he just, hey, where you from? He's from Texas. And I said, what is going on with your state? There's an Islamic party trying to create an Islamic-only city. And he goes, it's crazy. And he starts talking about the stuff, and he goes, hey, there's one thing. There is nothing that this administration, he said Trump, he said there's nothing Trump could do that will ever be right by the liberal media. He tunes it all out. I mean, this is just a dude of course, anecdotal evidence. This is just one guy, but you're seeing it. People are waking up to the bullshit that there's a reason that their ratings are dropping like lead. It's just the fat stelters of the world just lying over and over and over again. And
But again, I want to go back to Golan's point of what he said about you. I love you like a brother. I mean, I've known you for over 20 years. So you have to take yourself out of the equation. Okay. That's the most important thing in life. I learned that from Ben Stein, is taking ourselves out of the equation. So we're not as confused, but still things are very confusing. We were going back on an issue that's confusing to us. So you've brought up, you're right. Legacy media is dead. All these things are dead. But everybody's getting their information from clicks, from little headlines. So I know that you're thinking in a certain way or you're questioning in a certain way. But Golan, there are a lot. I mean, to me, there seems to be a lot of confused people, and I don't want to shut them down. I want those confused people to keep on asking questions, because
100%.
That's what we're here for. and we're trying to be here for it.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think, men, with all due respect to the dude you met at the pool, I think that most Americans, especially Americans, are very confused right now. Imagine if you are not someone who generally looks at the news or generally understands government or generally even pays attention to this stuff. Most people I know don't, frankly. And right now, it's being shoved into their eyeballs on a regular basis. And they're like, I guess I got to pay attention to this now. But they're not going to legacy media, or if they are, they're getting indoctrinated there. But they're certainly getting indoctrinated on social media. 70-something% of the Americans, adults included, get their news from TikTok, for God's sake.
Yeah, I
And
mean, yeah,
imagine one day Trump is a warmonger, and the next day he's all what's Trump is always caving. What's the taco, right? Trump's always caving. It's like, well, which is it? Is he a dictatorial warmonger, or is he a weakling that can never follow through? It's a flip flop based on however they want to make him look worse. And by the way, same thing for Israel, same thing for Bibi Netanyahu, same thing for illegals, same thing for anything you want it to be about. The press floods people with emotional buzzwords. Okay, I used to be a reporter. This is not the way I was taught. In fact, often I would get my stuff back with red lines like, this is hyperbolic, this is, you're leading the witness, sort of stuff. And now everything is leading the witness. It's all escalation, provocation, disproportionate responses. Just today, less than 24 hours after the ceasefire went through, first thing that happened, well, I guess we can't talk about how bad Israel is in relation to Iran. CNN runs a headline immediately. A bunch of Gazans were shot by the Israelis standing in line for aid. And it was like, oh my goodness, you didn't even let the ink dry on your previous
yeah.
story. You found a new way to vilify. So why would anyone who is getting that shoved into their eyeballs 24/7 not be confused?
There are people that will be confused. There are most people who have half a brain on their head. And
Where do you find these people?
hold on. You see that Trump bombed the Iranian nuclear program. He took it out. He threatened. He gave them a timeline. They broke the timeline. He bombed it. And then he got them to ceasefire, and now there's going to be peace.
And then 3 people on Truth Social wrote me a message saying that Iran never even had a nuclear program. Like, what
Forget
are
about
we
that.
Great.
Forget about that.
Well, then he bombed, as Judah says, well, then he bombed a pile of dirt. What do you care?
Forget about that. I want to
no big
move on
deal.
to Amanda. I
But the
want to
other
move
thing
on.
is, I want to say something. One thing. The fact that Trump got reelected is proof that a lot of people are not listening to mainstream media and all this nonsense that you're talking about, because they did everything. They pulled out every trick in the book and every stop to try to prevent this guy from making it back to office, and he made it back to office. If that isn't vindication, if that doesn't tell you that the Americans are fed up with this nonsense, the proof is right there. Proof in the pudding.
It doesn't mean they're not confused. And remember, 70 million people or 60 some odd million people still voted for cackling Harris.
Yeah, well, they identify as cactuses. It doesn't matter. They're all retarded.
You can't keep doing that. That's
You're not going to win those people over.
I understand that's not what I'm saying, though. You can't negate 60 million people by saying, well, or 65 million people by saying whatever. We have to remember that a lot of people did transfer over to Trump. So there is hope among those people. So those people.
But even, by the way, even that shows the confusion, right? Post-COVID, people suddenly distrusted the media in a way they never had before. And they started relying on news sources. One of the major news sources they relied on, for instance, was podcasters, of course, social media as well. But suddenly, all the podcasters started going Trumpy, Trump, Trump, Trump. Even the ones who weren't Trump, even the ones who had been for people like Sanders before, went for Trump. And
He
so
went too late.
Rogan
jumped
media,
in way too late.
but
Rogan
I'm
didn't
not
make a
forget
difference.
Rogan.
It was
Forget
way too
Rogan.
late.
You're talking about the entire podosphere. You're talking about all of social media. You're talking about all the non-legacy media outlets. We're going in a different direction. So the first one was thrown away from Trump in 2016. In 2020, thrown away from Trump because the legacy media swung one way, and now the new media swung the other way. And basically, we're just seeing people being led wherever they need to go by whoever it is that happens to have enough power to do it. That's still confusion, even if it went the way you wanted it to.
Okay, I want to close it up with this. I don't want to keep harping on this. I just want to just say there are confused people. I don't have this isn't a population number. I'm not going to Tucker Carlson how many people are confused in America. But man, I want to just end with this because I think this is really fascinating. fascinating, right? So you have don't by the way, as much as we poo-poo CNN's viewership, which you're 100% correct to do, their online site is still one of the most trafficked sites in the world. And let's not forget CNN Europe, which is also extremely successful, much more successful than it is here. So with that being said, man, we have two conflicting reports, right? So Fox News reports that the strike was successful, right? Everybody, senior officials say it was amazing. The strike on the 3 sites in Iran, exceptional. CNN reports from somebody from the State Department or the Pentagon that we didn't do any damage. We barely did any damage. 2 stations, 2 conflicting reports. And my fear is, Mend, that more people are reading CNN's headline than they are Fox News's headline. And this is, again, however you're going to take this, go ahead.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what CNN says. It doesn't matter what Fox says. The bottom line is, if their nuclear program is obliterated, then they're set back 20 years. I mean, that is the bottom line. All of the top scientists are dead. Their top generals are dead. Their nuclear reactors and their nuclear facilities and all of the different sites that they had are done. Fordo might just be buried under mountains of rubble, or it might be completely imploded. We don't know. We'll find out. That doesn't matter. I am going to concede that people are confused. I will agree with that. There's a
Glory be to God.
There's a country with a full of brown Muslims that just nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Pakistan, which is brown Muslims, and these people were told that Trump is a racist and he's an anti-Muslim and all of the other stuff. That country, which is Islamic, just nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. That could be confusing to CNN watchers because these people have been hearing for months, and MSNBC watchers, that he's a xenophobic, racist, retard, blah, 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 blah. So these people obviously are confused. I get it, but who cares? The more stuff that he does that actually wins, right? He won in Iran. We got the ceasefire. There's going to be peace in the Middle East. And just keep this in mind. It's a ceasefire, which means that if Iran makes one false move, they get bombed again. He just set the precedent of how it's to be done. Bush sent in thousands of troops, lost thousands of lives, and a decade in there for what? We didn't even win. The Taliban came out on top. Trump went in for 12 days, not even 12 days. The Israelis went in for 12 days. Trump went in for a day with a couple of 20-year-olds, right? A little group of 20-year-olds flying bombers, and took care of business in record time. That is how it's done. We have the power. You wield it when you need to, and then you try not to. When you have the giant stick, you don't need to wield it unless you do, which is then a lesson to everybody else that says, we don't want to, but we will, which is what he just did, which is why the world fears him. Peace through strength. This is textbook example. And again, I get it. The people that watch MSNBC and CNN are confused because this guy keeps on doing amazing things for the world. So it's confusing to them.
I'm begging you to stop just looking at them as a small sample size. CNN is the number 5 trafficked website when it comes to news. It's New York Times, I guess Yahoo.com, top 10 websites. ESPN, USA Today, and CNN is the top website.
In terms of what? In terms of what? And what are you looking at?
What else are people going to CNN for?
Use numbers. There are 347 million homes that have CNN. That doesn't mean they all watch them.
Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything.
They do know that 80 million people watch some, at least, CNN every day. And this is more important because you have to actually type it in and go to it. The actual website gets over 150 million unique visitors monthly. So we can pretend all those people are like us, looking at it and sneering at it.
That is the number.
Many people consider it the benchmark.
Type in traffic is the number. View it partially once in a day. You know, I view CNN. I'm in the airport. I'm going to my gate, and CNN's on every TV.
Well, it's because
they count
me. Going to CNN.
They're counting me. So going to CNN.com definitely counts. Now, out of the people that go to CNN.
Well, that's not a household, so they wouldn't be counting you, but I get your point. But talk about going to CNN.com, and that means typing it in and going to
150 million a year, and there's a good 15% of that. A month, sorry. There's a good 15 to 20% of that is ideologically very different than what CNN, and Fox gets the same thing. Fox has inflated numbers by people who hate Fox, yet they tune in every night to see what's being said.
I get your point, but remember, New York Times is number 1, BBC is number 9, NBC News is number 7.
And we're talking for news, right? We're talking about news?
We're talking about for news. And man, these are huge numbers. Let's not forget that.
And by the way, people talk about podcasts and talk about Rogan and talk about all this stuff, but the number one podcast consistently is not Rogan's. It is New York Times The Daily. That is where tons of people, and I'm talking number one with a bullet for years, has been people who go there to get their snapshot of news in the morning. That is a problem if they are ideologically captured.
Yeah, I agree. I used to listen. I used to listen to that podcast. It was really tough, but I thought it was important to hear it because I wanted to hear the spin that they give. I see it on the other side. The BBC, CNN. I tune into some of these things just to hear how they're going to spin it, and it's incredible to me how they do it. The playbook is really similar. They all do the same thing. They're going to find one former general, one former political analyst, one former congressman who is absolutely against whatever it is that they're doing, and then they go with that.
Okay, so I don't want to harp on this too much, but I just want to say it's really notable that a place like the Atlantic in March of 2024, so let's just say it hasn't gone down, had 30 million visits. That's the Atlantic. On another hand, a place like CNBC, 114. So that's more, that could be construed as business. Either way, my point being is people are getting a lot of information, and from a lot of these sites, we can't poo-poo everything.
I'm not poo-pooing it. What I'm saying is that it's a harsh wake-up call for these people. When you see an administration that comes in, that protects Americans, that puts American interests first, that takes out the bad guys and does it in record time and then creates peace, it is jarring. It is alarming to those that were hearing that this is the worst guy since Hitler. And yes, it's confusing to them, but what this administration needs to do is continue doing what they're doing. They are killing it on all fronts.
Nobody has said that otherwise. Nobody has right. Nobody said otherwise.
That's fine. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying, thank God that we have a strong leadership, a great administration. These guys are kicking ass and taking names, and it's being done in record time. This is unprecedented. This is so fantastic. God bless this administration.
Golan, finish it up.
I love everything you're saying. God bless this administration for doing what was done. Peace was not achieved. A ceasefire was achieved. There is a big difference between the two things, especially when you are talking about a regime that has had ceasefires on the books before. They mean nothing. Ceasefires to Islamists, just ask any Hamasnik, means time to rearm and rejigger what the plan is going to be. And if, as we talked about yesterday, if we see the Iranian regime now go dormant for a little while, wait out Trump, wait out Rubio, wait out whoever it is, J.D. Vance, whoever it is that's going to be president. These people love waiting hundreds of years until they can get their plan in order. And all the while, they're making 300 missiles on a monthly basis. Well, the 10,000 missiles that are going to rain down during AOC's administration is going to be the equivalent to Hiroshima. And that's not peace. That's just hitting a pause button. So while I appreciate everything that was done until now, I'm not as jazzed as you are, but we don't have to continue to debate it because I think that we have beat this dead horse into the ground. Beyond that, the idea of confusion, I think, is incredibly important. We have a lot of people who just don't know what's going on. And when you look at, what was it today, Judah, you and I were looking at it. Fox News and New York Post had one thing. CNN had another thing. MSNBC had another thing, all about the same topic. Many, many years ago, I taught a class in media bias. What I would do for my students, these were high school students, I would bring in 10 newspapers every Sunday, and I would say, here are the 10 newspapers from around the world. Find the same news story on each of those 10 newspapers and see how they framed the news story, because framing is how you get a narrative across. And there were shocking framings, things that you would never have expected to see the same news story and what details rose to the surface, which ones were suppressed, what thing they posited, what things they didn't. It's the same thing happening. The only difference is now it's all in one country. No wonder people are confused. I think they will continue to be. Hopefully, we can cut through that fog a little bit here.
Mend, you got a minute.
Yeah, let me just say this, is that if AOC becomes president, Iran is the least of our problems. Period. Full stop. End of story.
I think that was a perfect way to end. You just pulled the Costanza. You could leave the room. Golan, my question for you is, what is a newspaper? That's what anybody under the age of 25 that listens to this show will ask. What exactly is a newspaper? We're going to come that time where people are not going to know that you would stick a quarter in something and a door would open up and you could pull a newspaper out. On that note, I want to thank both of you. I'm glad that Mend was able to join the show from his bunker hidden far, far away, where he did meet a man from Texas and who he used his anecdotal data. We love you, brother. I'm really glad that you're here. And I want to thank everybody that's been downloading the show. Remember, everybody, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, go to Substack, Daily Cheat Sheet. Our YouTube views have been up. Somebody's liking us on YouTube, so go to YouTube, and that is the Daily Cheat Sheet also. And the only place we're not the Daily Cheat Sheet, Instagram, we're the Daily Cheat Sheet, but not on X. We are TD Cheat Sheet. That's TD Cheat Sheet. Go there, like us, love us, subscribe to the show. That's the most important thing, subscribe. On that note, good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are.